Welcome back, everyone. Today, I have the pleasure of talking through some of my favorite cigars, but not specific cigars. These are categories of cigars. A question that's come my way many times, and in fact, one that I asked myself early on in my career with cigars, was what are all the different demarcations of special editions produced from Cuba? The time that I was getting into cigars, there were far fewer, so perhaps easier for me to get my mind around the subject. Today, there's appears to be a bewildering array of special editions, new releases, and for those of you who aren't cigar geeks like us, you may not know what the differences are, so I'm going to try and help you a little bit, and I apologize in advance to those more knowledgeable than myself if I do make any errors here. Please correct me in the comments, or better still, come to the shop and tell me in person. Now, Cuba produces limited editions, and here we have it. This is a fine example, the Cohiba Talisman from 2017 limited edition production. What does it mean to get this extra band, the limited edition band, on a Cuban cigar? Well, it means several things. Firstly, it can only be in a brand that is considered of global prominence by Cuba. Secondly, it means that there will be the production of that cigar only in the year that it's released. Again, what does that really mean? Well, some people think a limited edition means there's X number of boxes produced each year. That's not true. It means Cuba has the latitude to produce as many boxes as they deem fit during that year. We never get told how many that is. It's a closely guarded secret. So do not look for a number. You'll be disappointed on the limited editions. But know that the total production run will be significantly less than almost any current production cigar in any size. And the other important element of a Cuban limited edition is that the leaves used inside the cigar, so that would be the filler leaves, the binder, and the wrapper, are aged for an additional 2 years before they're rolled. That will bring some elegance, some further refinement perhaps, and a jump start to the aging adventure of that cigar, should you be patient enough to keep it. It should be noted that the 2-year aging of all the leaves only started from 2007. Back in 2000, when the limited editions were first produced, it was only the filler leaves, my apologies, only the wrapper leaves that were aged an extra 2 years. And of course, there was a attention to picking a more Maduro style leaf, so from higher up on the plant, and I suspect a little bit of sun exposure. Moving on. The next special edition, many of you will be familiar with, will be the regional editions. You have this beautiful red band. It excites all collectors because I think in recent production, certainly, the regional editions are where so much innovation and personality comes through on the cigars. These particular ones are the El Rey del Mundo, La Reina, produced for the 2018 UK regional edition. It's one we're very, very proud of here in the UK because it's a true Lancero size. But I'm not going to bore you about the cigar right now. What I will tell you is that there is indeed a numbered quantity produced in each regional edition. And the regional editions will cover all the significant importers across the world. And Cuba will make them only available and for that market. And the number can vary. You can go from as few as 10,000 cigars being made in some of the early regional editions, all the way up to, in some cases, 150, 200,000 cigars with some of the Spanish recent productions. What you will get is you will get a wonderful story behind the size, the name, and sometimes the bands that get used on those specific regional editions. Very collectible, one to enjoy. Next up, there we have it. Casa del Habano specials. That's the extra band there. And you will get a further second band on the cigar as well. The Casa del Habano specials are a range of cigars in unique sizes across the portfolio of brands that are produced ostensibly only for the Casa del Habano chain of shops. These, in many cases, are owned by Cuba themselves, and internationally, they are normally franchised partners of Habanos. Always great cigars, always innovative sizes. So keep your eye out for the Casa specials. They're not produced in a limited edition, meaning they end, but they are produced in limited quantities with continuous production in most cases. Next one along the list is a range called the Specialists of Habanos, or Habano Specialists. These cigars are produced to be made available only in shops that are deemed professional and well-versed enough in what is a Cuban cigar to be allowed to be called a specialist of Habanos. If they qualify for that, they are able to sell this range of cigars. This particular one is, I believe, the San Cristobal Prado. There are several others produced. Again, really, really good. The Connoisseur B and the Connoisseur A, for example, from Upman. When you can get your hands on them, they're normally a higher quality of production and in somewhat smaller quantities. Keep your eye out for that. Now we're on to the Añejado. See that extra band there? Añejado literally means aged, or perhaps vintage, but I call it aged. And this was a relatively recent phenomenon. I believe it was 2016, perhaps, maybe 2017, that Cuba decided to release these. And the concept is that these are special cigars produced in a limited quantity, where the cigars, having been rolled in Cuba, are then aged for a period of time, additional time, in Cuba. This doesn't normally happen. The tobacco usually gets aged in Cuba, but it's very rare that the cigars themselves will have that advantage. So, in this case, the Montecristo Churchill, the box date is 2008, and it would have been released about 8-9 years later. So that'll give you an idea, approximately, the type of aging that's taking place. And there's also something called revisado that will happen with anejados. And revisado is an additional quality stamp that goes on the back of the box. And it means that an expert roller, supervisor quality, will have re-inspected the cigars before they've been distributed to the retail channels. That just gives you further assurance what you're going to smoke is going to be the best it can be. Now, the last two I've got here are rather special. Reserva. What is that? Well, some of you will have had the great privilege of smoking a Reserva cigar. The Reservas are a range produced very unusually from 1 year's production. It's the closest thing to a vintage wine that you get in the Cuban cigar world. That's what the cosecha means. So this Montecristo Churchill Reserva Cosecha 2008 means all the tobacco used in the cigars are from 2008. With Reservas, they will make 5,000 boxes only of 20 cigars. That's a minuscule production. And they will be representative of the most iconic cigars in existing brand portfolios. Again, always in the top premium selection brands from Cuba. There is 3 years of additional aging that gets applied to the tobacco that is used in all Reserva cigars. And I can say from experience, the quality and the consistency of these is exceptional. Very collectible. If you're lucky enough to get them, keep a few. Last one I'm going to mention for today is this one. And it's a development of the theme that we have with Reserva. It's called the Grand Reserva. This particular instance, I've got the Romeo and Julieta, Wide Churchill, Grand Reserva, Cosecha 2009. So that means all the tobacco is from 2009. And with Grand Reserva, the tobacco is aged an additional 5 years. And there's 15 cigars in each box. And there's still 5,000 boxes produced. That's a very, very small quantity of very desirable cigars. It's no surprise they tend to appreciate significantly in value. And I have to say, I've yet to smoke a bad one. So this was a little adventure down the classification system of special editions from Cuba. There are others. I won't get into them now, but they tend to fall in special humidor releases, the book series, replica humidors. But for now, I hope this will give you a useful guide to some of the special editions Cuba produces. Thank you.